Hello. Today we want to begin a series that will take us through a couple of episodes that talk about selfishness in marriage. We'll be dealing with how selfishness affects our marriage, and the good news is we will also talk about how we can solve that problem, how we can deal with this selfishness in our marriages. In our interactions, we have always started by asking couples, why do you marry? Why did you marry? And so the question is, why do we marry? So much negativity out there about marriages. In fact, it has been said that marriage is a scam. In 1 Corinthians 7, verse 27 and 28, the Apostle Paul advises us not to marry because he says, those who marry will face many troubles in this life, and I want to spare you that. He's actually warning us that we shouldn't get married because those who get married will see many troubles, and it's a fact. But despite all that, we still marry. So the question is, why do we marry? Many reasons can be given for why we marry. And I'll just pick a couple just so that we see what's out there. People tell us, I married this person because they are God-fearing. And that's a good thing. Because when somebody is God-fearing, the chances are higher that the marriage will survive. Others will say, I found her very attractive. Or, I found him well kept. He was neat. His shoes were well polished. And by the way, men, sometimes ladies judge us by how our shoes are polished. So you have to have polished shoes. Another is that I'm looking for a lifelong companion. And this person is good company. Or we have a lot in common. When we were dating, he would call me in the evening at 10 o'clock and we would talk until 3 o'clock in the morning. That's good. In cases, mainly with us Africans, society demands it of us. Society demands that we marry and we have a family. Some say, all my friends are married, therefore I need to get married as well. Or the biological clock is ticking. And I just want to point out here that we are not debating the validity of these reasons. We're just putting them out there. We're not debating whether this is good or bad. No, we're just putting them out there. Why people marry. But I think the most compelling reason for us to get married is that we are in love. I love this person. And I believe this person loves me too. There are two scriptures that my wife and I have always looked at. We find them foundational in our marriage. And we keep going back to them because we find them very important as that foundation for our marriage. The first one is Matthew 22, and it's verse 37 to 39. This verse says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like this. Love your neighbor as yourself. This is important for us because one, it is telling us that the starting point is our love for the Lord. And we have to love the Lord with all our hearts and with all our souls and with all our minds. That is the starting point. That indeed is the foundation. And then secondly, it says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. This is also very important. But interestingly, what we see about this verse is it assumes that you love yourself. And indeed, we love ourselves. I believe it is good to love yourself. It is good to love yourself. And we love ourselves. The problem now is this. We come into marriage loving ourselves And we love ourselves so much that we forget to love our spouses. It's all about loving ourselves, that we do not love our spouses. And when that happens, the marriage is shaky. Okay? We must learn to love ourselves equally as you love your spouse. Love your spouse just as you love yourself, because that's what that scripture is telling us. But when we just come into a marriage and we're loving ourselves only, then it's dangerous. We have to learn to love ourselves equally with our spouses. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Not to be selfish, not to love only ourselves, but also to be able to love our spouse equally. Now, the second scripture that we find important is Matthew 7, verse 12. And this one says, "So in everything, do unto others what you'd have them do to you." Now, isn't that important? If you are doing something to somebody, ask yourself, would I be okay if they did that to me? If you wouldn't be okay, then probably you shouldn't do it. That's what that scripture says. Just do only that which you find you would be comfortable being done to you, then you can do it to others. If you'd be comfortable with somebody loving you, love them. If you'd be comfortable with somebody insulting you, now that's a different story. So that's what we're going to be doing. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be looking at selfishness. And we'll be looking at this selfishness like a disease, because indeed it is. And so we'll be looking at the symptom, then we will look at the effects on the marriage, how it affects our marriage, and then we'll look finally at a biblical subscription for the cure. So we'll be doing all these episodes in those three stages. The symptom, which is a symptom of selfishness, the effect on our marriages, and then a biblical prescription for the cure. So be on the lookout for episode 2.